I have been there going crazy and wondering what in the heck is going on. I did not realize that there was such a thing as a covert narcissist. I thought narcissists were loud, bragging people, people who would boast and tell everybody how great they are, people who would go around demanding the best tables in restaurants, or people who were, men who were misogynistic. I really did not realize that there was such a thing as a covert narcissist, a person who could actually be a female, for example. When I was in a situation where I was in a business partnership with somebody who was female, for one thing, I found myself going crazy and feeling really bad with this person. And this is after I'd had my law practice as a very successful attorney. I've been recognized by US News as one of the best lawyers in America. I mean, had a career. I was so confused about what was going on. I didn't realize that this person could be a narcissist until somebody had actually pointed out to me that that's what this person was. And so I think it's important for you to also understand what the differences are between a covert and an overt narcissist. I mean, they're both narcissistic, meaning that they have these underlying feelings of emptiness inside. They don't feel any sort of value inside. They're trying to get all their feeling of value from external sources, but they go about it in very, very different ways. The grandiose or overt narcissist goes about it in very overt ways, very grandiose type of personality, whereas the covert narcissist is a much stealthier type of narcissist. They try to avoid that spotlight, and unless it's kind of a stealth sort of a way. They kind of go about things in a more of a passive aggressive kind of a way. They're a little bit more introverted, and they don't have that brash sort of personality that you generally tend to see with an overt narcissist. And they don't want to risk any sort of public humiliation. It's more of a victim-y sort of personality. And that's what you sort of see with a covert narcissist. I mean, I remember thinking, oh, I don't think this person is a narcissist. I think they're just really, really insecure, which is true. So number one thing that you're going to see with a covert narcissist is you're going to see this as a person who is very passive aggressive. They're going to criticize from the sidelines. They're going to judge from the sidelines, but they're more passive aggressive, meaning they'll maybe agree to do things. They're agreeable from outside, but they're criticizing on the inside. Like, everybody thinks that they're super nice. They smile a lot. Oh, yes, absolutely, I will do that thing. But then they maybe just don't follow through. They just don't do it. Or they might inadvertently leave you off of that email at work. Oh, I thought I put you on there. I didn't mean to leave you off. It's very passive aggressive types of things where you're finding yourself, should I say something? Should I not? That's the sort of thing you'll see with a covert narcissist. Not overt in your face, covert. Second thing that you're going to see with them is that they're very condescending. They act superior. But again, very underlying. They'll belittle you in a covert sort of a way. Oh, that's so great that you've lost all that weight. I mean, too bad about the stretch marks, but I mean, my gosh, so great that you did that. Kind of condescending, sort of superior, often a little bit sarcastic, belittling you, but just under the surface, it's I'm so nice. I just gave you a compliment. I'm so sorry if you took it that way. They've always kind of got this plausible deniability right there. They're very good at just skimming that surface of being able to deny that they did anything wrong right there. The next thing is they're very, very threatened by direct questioning or direct honesty. I know that I've been in situations like this with covert narcissists. And, when you go directly to them and you ask them pointed questions about something that, why didn't you do this? Or what's going on with this? That's when they become like the victim. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you would question me, and they might start crying if they're a female. This is when it becomes about them and they become, I can't believe you question my honesty or something like that. They're very, very threatened when you start directly questioning them on anything. The next thing is they swing very much between, with the person that they idealize, they swing very much between, like, they think this person is fantastic, and then they also are putting this person down. It's like they think the person is ideal and they put them on a pedestal, but then they also are devaluing them in some way. And it's very, very, very confusing. Clearly, number 5, their public image is totally different than the person that they are behind closed doors. Person that they want everybody to see is oftentimes a humanitarian. They're the first person to show up when somebody is sick. They're the first person that shows up at the hospital, or they send the baskets. They make sure that their public image is absolutely pristine. Many times these people are clergy, they're doctors, they're nurses, they're attorneys. They're very good people. The majority of the people see them as that person. Many times, the only person who knows them to be this covert narcissist is their target, or just the few people that they target. It's definitely quite different. The next thing is that they often are quite unreasonable with what their expectations are of people, especially their people that they target, whoever it is that their person is. That's number 6. Number 7 is that whatever your issues are become their reason for being a victim. For example, they didn't do something that they were supposed to do. And so you question them about that. Well, then that becomes their drama about it. They had a funeral, they had a this, they had a that. And now it's whatever it is much, much bigger. And then the fact that you attack them about it makes you the bad person. And then you end up basically apologizing to them. And so your issue never even gets addressed. And in fact, you feel bad about it. The next thing is number 8 is that they use other people's vulnerabilities. I'm trying not to use certain situations that I know so well in my life, because I don't want the narcissist in my life to come knocking on my door again. But so, for example, if they see that that somebody is sick, they will go show up to that situation and make sure that they are seen doing all the things that they need to be seen doing in that situation. But if there's not an audience, then they won't be there. They like to use other people's vulnerabilities for their own use. The next thing is extremely, extremely reactive to any kind of criticism. Highly, highly easily slighted, highly easily reactive to criticism. They cannot take any sort of criticism whatsoever. The next thing is that they oftentimes fake illnesses, fake injuries. I know some that are often chronically ill or chronically injured because they get attention for that. They get attention from not just their spouse, but they also get attention from others in the community or people around them. And so they are just chronically sick so that they can get people to have sympathy for them. Covert narcissists like to be the victim. Sometimes they're even called the vulnerable narcissist because a lot of times they can be downtrodden or that sort of thing. It's sad. Honestly, it's so sad. And I want you to put that in the comments. It's so sad. So sad. Even though, yes, it can be draining for you, honestly, you have to be sad for them because that's how they live. They will honestly, many times, compromise a relationship with their own family members in order to continue to get attention from others because they would rather have that. So the next one is they will stonewall people. In other words, they will just stop talking to people completely. If that is what they need to do, then that is what they will need to do. The next one is they completely have no introspection whatsoever, no self-awareness, no, like, let me take a look at my behavior. Let me take a look at how I need to be responsible for how I might have caused hurt or harm to this person and might need to apologize to this person and really have empathy for that. A lot of times you might just hear platitudes from them. They're just not aware of how their behavior actually impacts others. The next one is they're extremely envious of others, constantly looking at how other people are living, what they're doing, comparing themselves. And there's this underlying rage about it, underlying jealousy about it. They can't be happy for somebody else. If somebody else actually says something about, look at what I've done, or look at what my child has done. Oh, that's just great. That's great for you. They really can almost barely choke out a congratulations for them that's actually sincere. They really can't be happy for someone else. The next thing is that they often gossip. They often triangulate. They even often pit people against each other. They'll say things about this one to that one, and they'll say this one said this thing about that one so that they can get people to not like each other because they really want both of those people to rely on him or her. They want to be the center of everything, and they don't want those two people to be friends with each other. So they kind of gossip, but also want to divide people and keep people just friends or relying on them. That's that. The next one is they constantly need reassurance. How did I do? I want acknowledgement. Look at all the things that I did for you. You need to tell me how great I did. That's the next one. The next one is that they fixate on others. They fixate on other people and what they might have done to them or their misfortunes, or they almost get like obsessed with other people and what's going on with them. This goes back to that comparison thing too. They're just so wrapped up in what's going on with other people and what's going on with this person, that sort of thing. It's just, it's exhausting. The next one is that they change with whoever it is that they're around. And because they're constantly working hard to flatter or fawn, to win favor, or to be with whoever the next person is that they're going to win favor with and get the best supply around. It's always this game to see who they're going to get the next best supply around. And so that it's this chameleon like behavior to sort of fawn or be flattered by, and working the room almost in a way, but trying to stay kind of stealth. And because they don't want to get too much attention, they're trying to stay humble. They don't want to be the center of attention because they don't want to make it look like they're bragging. And so that's sort of the next one. The next one after that is that they gaslight you. They gaslight you constantly. All narcissists gaslight, but covert narcissists really love to gaslight. They rewrite history to whatever version they want to rewrite history on. And they constantly try to make you think that you're crazy. We talked about that and you agreed, or they'll take pieces of conversations and work them in and conveniently try to make it seem like that was the version that was discussed, even though many times they know what was actually discussed, or they know what was the intent, or they know how things are supposed to be, but they almost purposely twist things just to make you crazy, just to have a conversation a certain way. It's a very exhausting way to live, but it's a gaslighting where it's a rewriting of history just to make you think that you're crazy, or rewriting of facts just to make you think you're crazy. The next one is an exaggerated sense of entitlement. They don't feel like things should apply to them. They feel superior. They feel like they should have a better situation than they do, or, the rules shouldn't apply to them. The situation shouldn't apply to them. Why does this one have that one and I don't? But yet they don't want to have to say it out loud. It's just sort of under the surface. You might know that this is how they feel, but the rest of the world doesn't know that that's how they feel. It's a smiling. It's like nothing is ever good enough for them. You can never satisfy them because nothing is ever good enough for them. The next one is that in some ways they admire the grandiose narcissist. They admire how the grandiose narcissist is so brash, is so confident, is just out there, because they kind of want to be like that themselves. They attach themselves to people who they think are going to make them look more special through association. So they're always looking to see who they can attach themselves to make themselves appear more prestigious just by association. That's number 20. We're almost there. And the last one, 21, is they love to use guilt and shame to control you and to punish you. That's what they love to do. They want to make you squirm, but through guilt, through shame. Oh, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're leaving me here. It's okay. I'll be okay. I'm over here by myself. That's all right. I'll be fine. That sort of thing. Guilt, shame to control you, to punish you. All right. So nice, so kind, so wonderful. Everybody thinks that they are wonderful. They come, they befriend you. They are your best friend. Everybody thinks that they are wonderful. They ingratiate themselves within everyone. But, they're kind of like in everyone's business. They sort of find themselves everywhere they need to be. That's sort of how they are. They just sort of really in touch with everything that's going on, especially if it's a company. They see where the best synergies are. They see where they can collab, and they are really, really great for that idealization phase. They look for those opportunities to attach themselves to the right people. They're excellent opportunists, and they're kind of like meerkats. They're always looking around for that best opportunity and where they can attach themselves to that best person to make themselves look the best. Where can they look the most significant and be seen and be valued the most, right? And they want to be in that spot, that spotlight. If they attach themselves to you, are that person at that moment. So whether it's a business partnership or if you're at work or whatever it is, it's because they have decided that you're the one that should be attached to in that moment. And so if that's the case, then you're going to be a good one for them. But if all of that aligns, then that's fantastic at the beginning. But once they attach themselves to you, so that's number one, then you start to find, well, number two, they end up not following through on the things that they're supposed to be doing, say that they're going to do things, they end up not doing them. So number two is that they're very, very passive aggressive, assign themselves or you assign them certain things to do. Where is it? You are kind of confused by it because they seem like they're going to be an amazing partner or somebody to be working with, and it's not happening. And they always have some sort of excuse for it, or they just don't respond to you at all. But they've always got some sort of family issue, some sort of family emergency, some sort of something going on, and you start to feel during this time that underlying sort of competition coming on. Now you're starting to feel that, and you're starting to feel that they're sort of triangulating, right? So number three is that's when you're starting to feel that sort of competition going on. That's where you're starting to feel where they treat you a little bit like they are superior to you and you are inferior. Little digs, little subtle devaluing, where they kind of forget things about you on purpose, things that that they knew about you. They kind of put themselves in superior positions. If there's an opportunity, all of a sudden they left you off of it. Inadvertently. They might have inadvertently left you off of emails for meetings, for information about clients. All of a sudden things are starting to happen. And when you question them about it, they are, what are you talking about? They don't own up to it because, everybody still thinks that they're so wonderful, so nice. And they even say things to you like how much they think of you. It's confusing because the way they're acting is different than the way they conduct themselves. And so you're starting to feel confused about this underlying thing that's happening, the passive aggressive behavior, this underlying competition, things that they're forgetting, and the way they still seem like they're your friend, or they still seem like they're supposed to be sort of on your side. Then the next thing is they start setting themselves up as sort of they're friends with all sorts of other people, and that they have stronger sort of relationships with other people. They start setting themselves up as they are the go-to person. They are the go-to person within the relationship with you, so that you are kind of the secondary person in the relationship. And because they want people to sort of see that you are now kind of wronging them in some way, that you are now sort of the bad person. They want to sort of set themselves up as kind of the victim of you if anything ever happens. They want to make sure that they've kind of got these third parties aligned with them, and they want to make sure that you know that these third parties are aligned. So they'll kind of drop it in that how close they are to this person or that person, especially if this person or that person is superior to you, somebody that you look up to, somebody that is perceived to be higher up on the food chain in some way, more famous, more influence, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be even within the same company, but they want to make sure that whoever this person is, it's whether it's the illusion of influence or whatever it is, that you know that they know, or whatever it is, that there's this perceived feeling that if there was ever a fracture between you and them, that they're going to be absorbed into the higher level of society as they see it, and you're going to be left out in the cold. That's what they kind of want to make sure that you feel. That's the next one. The next one is you start to see some maybe even potential situations where they start treating you almost as a subordinate. Now they're starting to give you tasks to do where you are kind of becoming where you're doing things for them. They might even say things to you in public or in front of others that make people think that you're their subordinate in some way. They might put something out on social media or something that kind of makes people believe this, even if it's not true, or they treat you like this in some way. If this is resonating with you in any way, I'd love to know that you've seen it, or put totally in the comments, or put I've seen it in the comments, or something that you guys have seen so far. Because I know for me, it was very similar to this. And I know for me, I even started to see some unethical behavior at this point. I was taken aback. And if you actually say something to them at this point about behavior that is, potentially unethical or not above board, or you try to call them out on whatever it is that they're doing, they turn it around like it is such a huge, oh my gosh, I can't believe you would question me. Then they become the victim. They reverse it so that they become the victim, and you are now comforting them. The next thing is that they will pretend like they didn't know that you were trying to either take time off, or that you were trying to not be scheduled on a certain day or do something like that. They'll start to try to sabotage you. So they might even tell clients or people like that, oh, they don't know where you are, make it seem like you just didn't show up, or make you come in on those days, make you work on those days, that sort of thing. The next thing is that if something good happens with you, and this is the last one, number 7, is that they will absolutely not be happy for you whatsoever. I mean, they'll be like, oh, great for you. Congratulations. I mean, they'll try to muster it, if they're trying to still hide it, but you'll be able to start to tell that they're not actually happy for you. And by the way, this is still, all if they're still with you, still working with you. But I just want to add sort of like a PS to this. If you decide that you're no longer for them, and now you're against them, or now you're actually pulling away and they know it, this is when gloves off. mask off when it comes to a covert narcissist. This is when they just absolutely go insane, removing your access, doing things. This is when you start to see a side of them where you think, oh, what happened to the nice one? Wow. They'll start sending you really nasty emails, being just absolutely horrible. And you think, wow, I didn't even know you had it in you to be like this. And all you're trying to do is actually maybe try to have a cordial end. You try to extend an olive branch. You're trying to be nice, trying to wrap things up in a good way. They will not be able to do that. I'll tell you that right now. And by this time, you will have had all the energy sucked out of you. You will be a shell of yourself having dealt with them. And you'll just be, I gotta get out of this thing. So believe me, I know. I've been there. I've been exactly where you are. And I can just tell you that the best thing for you is going to be putting those boundaries in place, not talking to anybody, not talking to any of their flying monkeys either. I mean, because they try to, put themselves in this place of a puppet master or whatever. And I can tell you that the other people around them don't see what's going on. And it's just not going to be helpful for you to try to remain in contact with them or the other people in their world. It's better for you to try to cut ties with as many people that are close to that narcissist as possible too, for your own sake, your own sanity, your own soul. What is a covert narcissist to begin with? A covert narcissist is very much a narcissist. It's just that they're better at hiding it in a lot of ways. A grandiose narcissist is the type that most people think of when they think of a narcissist. That's the type that kind of is the one that goes around bragging about things. They tell everybody in a way that they're a narcissist because they're just out there with it. They're demanding. They're bragging. They're the one that tends to be more of the male chauvinist. They're the one that I kind of thought of as a narcissist to begin with. But a covert narcissist they can be humble. They can play the victim. They can act like, oh my gosh, poor me. They can be downtrodden. But really, everybody else thinks that they're so good. They think things are so nice. They can be humanitarians. But just underneath the surface is this jealousy, this rage, this envy. And so the way it comes out is different than other narcissists. So they still feel that sense of emptiness inside. They still need an endless amount of narcissistic supply, just the same as any type of narcissist does, but the way they go about it is different. They are passive aggressive. As a lawyer, there's a term called clean hands, right? And I kind of think of them as the clean hands version of narcissists because they always try to keep their hands clean. So there's always this plausible deniability going on with them. They're the ones that are kind of clutching their pearls. What? Little old man. That's the covert narcissist. They're the ones that might be acting like they are smearing people, or they're smearing people, but acting like they're doing it in terms of care. So it's, oh my goodness, I'm so concerned about so and so and how late she's been to work so often. I mean, just I'm just really worried about her just because, she's normally so punctual and she's usually so conscientious. And I just am worried about how often she's been missing lately because that's just not her. And of course, this is a person who is probably vying for that particular job. And so she just wants to, point out that this person isn't showing up all the time or whatever it is. And maybe this person only missed once or twice. And maybe she knows exactly what's going on or whatever it is. And maybe she didn't even go to the person and say, hey, what's going on? Or whatever it is. Or maybe the boss already knows what's happening or whatever it is. But, they're just taking it upon themselves to insert themselves in the situation. Or maybe they're just kind of letting other people know what's happening so that the rumor sort of spreads around, that sort of thing. Or they might put it in terms of guilt. They might be guilting you. It's all about plausible deniability with them. It's all about death by 1,000 cuts. So that's their number one form. Their number one form is that subtle emotional manipulation, but almost like they're playing a game of chess, right? It's that cutting, that subtle little cutting. You just kind of know that it's happening, and you can't quite put your finger on it either, but you know that something is happening. And even when you go to tell somebody about it, they go, well, doesn't seem so bad, or oh, that must have been inadvertent. I mean, because they're just so nice, or they're just such a good person. They're doing it to manipulate some situation behind the scenes for some other third party, or there's always some kind of something driving it behind the scenes. It's not just because they deeply care about the person with cancer. There's just some agenda that they're pushing. You can't ever quite get back to them on it. It's really hard to quite push it back to them. There's always a way for them to sort of fashion it back to what in the world how could you have a problem with me caring about a person with cancer? Whereas a person who is a malignant narcissist, if they're stalking somebody, you can go right back and go, that person was stalking. And it's really clear. That line of abuse is really clear. Right there it is. Same thing with a grandiose narcissist who ignored a court order. Boom, right there it is. The line of bad behavior, boom, right there it is. With a covert passive aggressive narcissist, the line is so much finer. It's so much more difficult. So, what can you do? Well, the first thing that you can do is what I say: step one, don't run. Step one, don't run. You make your boundary. You make your boundary. You know that something is going on. You know that it ain't right. So you put that invisible boundary down around you and you go, it ain't right. I'm not doing this anymore. This does not add up for me, and I'm not taking this anymore. And plus, the person is probably taking advantage of you. You know that you are doing more than your share or whatever it is. You know you're probably carrying more of your weight. They're not acknowledging you. They're not seeing your side. They're probably using guilt to manipulate you. Don't allow it anymore. You need to put that boundary down. So I want you to put in the comments, I can do this. I can do this. Boundary. All right. That's the first thing. And then the next thing is you always have a right to respect. So don't allow them to treat you with disrespect, because once you start to create these boundaries, you're going to see that mask whip off. You are going to see it because they are every bit as much of a narcissist as every other narcissist. So once you start to create these boundaries, once you start to do this, you're going to start to see them ramp up. You're going to start to see them getting angrier. You're going to start to see this smear campaign ramp up. You're going to start to see them becoming more and more hostile. Okay. So I want you to say, I can do this. I want you to stand your ground. So get my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com. Right. So I want you to do that. I want you to join my free private Facebook group at Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Also very important for you to do, because you are going to need some support, right? So that is going to be very, very important for you as well. So step one, don't run. Step two, make that U-turn. The next thing I want you to do is just start looking at them as if they are a toddler having a tantrum on the floor, and just say things to them like, I can see that you are upset. I can see that you are angry. I can see that we may not agree to things. Keep your boundaries. Don't allow yourself to get emotional. Don't allow yourself to be sucked into their drama. Don't get pulled in, sucked in, dragged back in, right? As soon as you do, then they know that they have you. And then I want you to start documenting everything. In that documentation, that's when you're going to start to be able to create your leverage. And they will lie and they will make mistakes. I promise you that that is where you will be able to start catching them. You will be able to start to catch them and it will start to be able to come out. Those are the first few things that you will be able to do. And it will start to come to the fore. You will be able to start getting to a place where you will be able to expose them. It will take a little time. It's simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it is very simple to do. I promise you, I've helped literally thousands of people around the world win. You can win too. It's extremely, extremely easy to do.
Covert narcissist. They have a public persona that is totally different than their private persona. I think they are, in some ways, the most dangerous kind of narcissist because everybody else thinks they are so wonderful. This is the kind that I had to deal with as a family member and as a business partner. And I think it's really, really very, very, very difficult because it's death by 1,000 cuts. And it's really, really, really hard when you're trying to tell somebody about it. You go to tell somebody about it and everybody thinks, well, that doesn't sound so bad. Let's dive in. The first hidden habit is that subtle underminer. A covert narcissist is very passive aggressive. And so what they will do is they might subtly put you down. What's the name of that thing again that you had? I can never remember. And you're thinking, how can you not remember? It's like just that little subtle thing, just to let you know that it's a little jab, or they might disguise an insult as a joke or a backhanded compliment. One of my daughter's boyfriends one time said, our kids are going to have the best of all worlds. They're going to have my brains and your work ethic. Just like a little backhanded compliment like that. Like just like a little passive aggressive thing. It's so bold. Something like that. Or what is that on your thing? On your dress like that? Oh, that's actually part of the dress. Go something like that. It's just like a little sort of disguised backhanded thing. Passive aggressive behavior that's just sort of subtly meant to put somebody down. It's just right under the radar because they've got this underlying rage, this underlying jealousy that's just there under the surface. But everybody else thinks that they're so nice. And they have this persona that they're such a good person. They could be humanitarians, they could be pastors, they could be lawyers, they could be doctors, they could be pillars of society. That's what's so difficult about the covert narcissist. They're passive aggressive oftentimes. Another one is the emotional withdrawal. They punish you by withdrawing affection, withdrawing emotion. They give you the silent treatment, suddenly becoming cold and distant. Instead of the grandiose narcissist that's telling everybody how great they are or telling you, hey, you're an asshole or whatever, give you the cold shoulder for days, refusing to acknowledge your presence. Just all of a sudden, you just don't know what's going on. So this is the emotional withdrawal, the covert narcissist. So, and if any of these habits sound familiar so far, don't worry. You're not alone. And if you need phrases for disarming narcissists to handle these situations, get my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com so that you can have something at the ready. You can get them and use them for your text messages, for your emails, for communicating with narcissists. It'll help you. If you face these, share your stories in the comments. Your experience could help others and say, I've seen it. Put that in the comments. So habit number 3 is the victim stance. Covert narcissists are experts at playing the victim. They twist stories to make it seem like they're being wronged. You go and ask them, hey, where's the thing that you were supposed to do for me? Now they're oppressed. How could you ask that of me? Even if it was something that they suggested they were going to do. It's their way of getting sympathy, manipulating others. The victim stance. I can't believe you're asking this of me. You know how much I've been dealing with. They twist things. My air conditioning was out. This person didn't show up at my house. Whatever it is, they're the victim. Habit number 4, the quiet saboteur. Unlike overt narcissists, they'll file false pleadings, they'll lie right in your face. No, they quietly spread rumors, and they do it in the form of care. I'm so worried about Kim, just concerned about her and her drinking. She's just, I don't know. I'm just worried about her. They spread rumors subtly to discredit, to set you up to fail without overt hostility. Spreading rumors. It's the quiet saboteur. Oh, I didn't get an email from so and so. I don't know why. I usually do. That sort of thing. And finally, habit number 5, master of guilt tripping. Covert narcissists are adept at making you feel guilty for their problems. Oh, it's fine if you don't come. I'll just be here by myself, or I'll handle it myself. I do everything. They want you to feel responsible for their happiness or their well-being. And so you have to be the one who takes care of them. It's all right. I'll be over here. And so you end up feeling guilty. The one thing that you need to do is have boundaries around these people. And that's why it's so important for you to recognize these signs and say, it's not okay. If you want to put that in the comments below right now, it's not okay. And if you need additional support, join my Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. It's an amazing support group. And recognizing these hidden habits will start to empower you so that you can navigate and negotiate these dynamics effectively. Knowledge is your shield, it's your strength, it's your power.
10 power-packed phrases that can instantly unmask that covert narcissist. All right. So let's dive in, shall we? By the way, I've got a brand new book, Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win, which you should go straight to slaythebully.com and you should grab it right now, because if you do, you get early access to the entire manuscript, you get a masterclass, you get all sorts of really, really super cool things. So make sure you do that right now. All right. So number 1 is, I'm not having this discussion with you. I'm telling you how it is, because you know what? They bank on the fact that you're not going to snuff them out. They bank on the fact that you're not going to go direct with them. It stops them in their tracks. So if you say directly to them, I'm not having this discussion with you, I'm telling you how it is, then it establishes your assertiveness with them. And it lets the narcissist know that you won't be manipulated, and it sets this clear boundary with them. And you don't need to say it in an angry way. You don't need to say it in a way that has any tone. You don't even need to say it. You can just say it even sort of robotically. You can just make it clear that there's a new game in town, that this new game in town doesn't tolerate their attempts to control conversation. You can just say, I'm not having this discussion with you. I'm telling you how it is. Just like that. And you can just look at them like that. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, I don't get what you're trying to say or do here. You just kind of play dumb. I don't understand what you're trying to do. I'm not sure. You act confused. And when you subtly sort of challenge the narcissist's attempts to confuse or gaslight you, it puts the focus back on their behavior to demand clarity. Instead of anger, you sort of are bewildered. I'm not sure. Can you provide clarity for me? I'm just trying to understand what it is you're trying to say. Can you give me some more clarity on that, please? When you approach it with some bewilderment or like confusion instead of anger, it sort of disarms them. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, this isn't the way to talk to me or anyone else for that matter. So you are establishing that you are not going to be disrespected. And let me tell you, I always sort of give a formula for shifting the dynamic of power with narcissists. And I say that you need to think about it in terms of baby steps, because oftentimes you've been conditioned for a long time, whether it's a professional relationship or a personal relationship. A lot of times you don't feel like you can shift that dynamic of power all at once because it feels overwhelming to do it all at once. So I say step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. So step 1 is just creating those boundaries. When you first start creating those boundaries, that first boundary doesn't have to be a physical boundary. It doesn't have to be moving out of the house or getting out of a partnership. That first boundary can really just be, this isn't the way to talk to me or anyone else for that matter. You don't even have to add the or anyone else for that matter. You can just say, this isn't the way to talk to me. So by addressing their communication style and the fact that you find it disrespectful, you're reminding the covert narcissist that their behavior is not acceptable. And it also emphasizes, if you want to say, or anyone else for that matter, the importance of treating you with respect and others with respect. But if you don't even care about others at that moment, you can just say, don't treat me disrespectful. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is, if you're going to talk about me to anyone else, it should be in a respectful manner. And, I have a friend who's also my business coach. She's been my business coach for a very long time. And she would always say, don't leave me less in other people's listening. So when people are hearing about me, don't leave me less. They're thinking less of me when you walk away. So, this phrase draws attention to the narcissist's tendency to, try to line up flying monkeys, gossip about you, have their army of people so that you feel isolated, where they're speaking ill of you. And it encourages them to consider their words and reminds them of that importance of speaking of respect. But really, more importantly, you're calling them out. You're demasking them. You're saying, I see you. I know what you're doing. I know what you're up to. You're not fooling me. I see what you're up to. It's almost like you're shining the light. It's like that when you pull the rock off the bugs and they all go scurrying. What are you doing? Right? So it's not just the fact that you're demanding this. It's also the fact that you're shining the light on it and you're like shaming them about it. The next one is number 5, which is, your behavior and words have consequences, which can be felt by others. Here you're highlighting the impact of their actions, which again sheds light on their lack of empathy. And it reminds them that their behavior not only affects themselves, but those around them. They may not care about you. They may not even care about anyone else, but maybe they'll be worried about how it's going to show up for themselves. And in that moment, they may be so proud that they'll be like, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. But even if they say that in that moment, they may be worried. You can still say it because regardless of how they react in that moment, it still may worry them. Number 6 is it's not okay to only think of yourself and disregard everyone else's feelings. Again, you are standing up for yourself and you are letting them know that you see what they're doing. You see that they're only thinking of themselves. And especially for a covert narcissist, they want to be seen as the humanitarians. They want to be seen as the one who thinks of everyone else. And so if you are calling them out as someone who doesn't think of everyone else, they'll be like, oh, feigning this hurt. Like, I take care of everyone. Are you kidding me? They'll be extremely hurt by that, right? So that will kick them right in the gut. And it highlights the need for empathy and consideration towards others and exposing their lack thereof. And by the way, I have phrases for disarming narcissists that you can get for free at disarmthenarc.com, which I definitely highly recommend that you do. And if you need self-care, I have a whole video on self-care for coping with narcissists, and definitely check out that video as well. The next one is, if you want something from me, tell me so plainly instead of implying it and being passive aggressive. Again, they're going to be like, I'm being passive aggressive. What, me? Are you kidding? They don't want to be seen as anything other than good and wonderful, even though they are very, very passive aggressive. By actually calling out their passive aggressive tendencies and tactics, you force them to be more direct and transparent because they want to have sort of these clean hands all the time. They don't want to be seen as this manipulative person that they are. And it promotes their open and honest dialogue. And by the way, I have a whole video called Decoding the Top 7 Catchphrases of Narcissists, which is another great video for you to check out. So the next one is number 8, which is what you're doing right now isn't helping us and isn't helping the relationship. So, it just sort of like brings it all back so that you can remind everyone, where are we going with this? Don't we want to get to a place where we're actually getting somewhere with this whole thing, right? Aren't we trying to resolve a conflict here? By pointing out that their behavior is detrimental to the relationship, you highlight the negative impact of their actions. And it encourages the narcissist to reflect on their behavior and their consequences. Whether they actually do or not, probably not, but at least for that moment, they get like shamed and, they're open. You open that and you unmask them for that moment. The next one is, I know who I am and what I need in a relationship, and this is not it. The more you become authentic about who you are, how strong you are, and what you want in a relationship, the more difficult it's going to be for that covert narcissist to be existing in that, because that is a narcissist kryptonite. A strong, resilient, authentic human being is not a person who a narcissist can coexist with. A narcissist, by definition, needs a person who's going to be insecure, needs a person who can be manipulated, needs a person who wants to cling to them. And that this statement, I know who I am and what I need in a relationship, asserts your self-worth, asserts your boundaries. It emphasizes you're not settling for a relationship tainted with narcissistic tendencies. It empowers you to protect yourself. So powerful. If you agree that this is so powerful, I want you to put that in the comments below right now. So powerful. The next one is, this conversation is over until we can speak respectfully without manipulation or blame shifting. By setting a firm boundary, you establish that you will not engage in unhealthy conversations. This phrase demands that you demand mutual respect and honesty while exposing that covert narcs manipulation tactics. So good. Conversation's over until we can speak respectfully without manipulation and without blame shifting. And by the way, if you need additional support, please join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, because get the help and support that you need. And if you need therapy, betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. Again, get the help and support that you need. We receive commissions. It doesn't cost you any extra. There you have it, folks. Those are the 10 power packed phrases that will help you when dealing with and confronting a covert narcissist. Covert narcissist, I think they are the worst ones. I've had to deal with them in my own life, I had to deal with them in my law practice. I've helped many thousands of people get rid of them, smack them down. And I want to help you with these guys too, because you know what? What can I tell you? What's the difference between a covert and an overt? Well, the overt is the one that will tell you everything about themselves. They're the one that demands everything. I kind of think of them as the garden variety narcissists. These are the ones that you think of. Before I knew what a covert narcissist was, this is the only kind of narcissist I thought that was out there. These are the ones that will demand the best tables at the restaurant. They're the ones that tend to be like the misogynists of the world, the ones that will take what they want without question, no problem. These are the guys that will bully people right to their face. This is a very different type of narcissist than a covert narcissist. This is the one that demands their admiration, demands your attention. A covert narcissist is a much softer tactic, a much more passive kind of a tactic. You know, I kind of think of these as a more like a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of a narcissist, because they're much more stealth, under the radar. You know, you don't know that this is a narcissist until you're up close and personal with this kind of a narcissist. Everybody else in the world thinks that this person is kind and gentle, and might even see this person as a victim. And it's much more difficult to recognize right away because they're not out there, you know, taking over the world. They might even say, "Oh, I hate the spotlight. I don't want that." No, you take the spotlight. I mean, they might even be saying that to other people. I'm telling you, they are just as destructive, just as bad, even sometimes more so. They're not as easy to spot, and they are just as much of a narcissist as any other kind of a narcissist. They have just as much of a need to fill that emptiness inside of them, just as much of a need to have everybody pay attention to them as any other kind of a narcissist. And they have those feelings of fantasies of, you know, craving that fame and glory and all of those things, but it's not as out there as the overt narcissist. And they definitely lack empathy just the same as an overt narcissist. It's just not as easy to spot. It's not as obvious until you're right there, right in front of them. What kinds of things do covert narcissists do? Covert narcissists are passive aggressive. You ask them to do something, or they might even volunteer to do something, and they'll say yes right to your face. And then they just don't do it. Almost like a petulance or something where, okay, how many times do I ask them before I'm just being a pest? You know, especially if you're a business partner or somebody that works with them, a colleague, it's kind of a push thing. You know, they don't want to be forced to do something, but then if you ask them to do something, they're kind of like don't want to have to do it, but then they don't get asked and they get mad about that too. It's a crazy sort of thing. They don't want to get left out, but they don't also don't want to be forced to do something. So they're very passive aggressive in that way. They feel like they're too good for things. They don't want to have to tolerate people. They feel like life isn't fair for them. And they feel like they're never appreciated. They're never appreciated for how much they do. And a lot of times, if they do things for you, it always comes with strings attached. If they give a gift, and a lot of times they do give, but it's always with, they want to make sure that people are watching, and that it's always with purpose, or if they give for charity, are people watching? It's always for a purpose and for a certain gain to get from that. And it's always then, after all I've done for you, don't you see what I've done for you? You should feel appreciative for what I've done for you. Look what I've given for you. You'll never find anyone else like me. A lot of self importance in that, and a lot of guilt put on people, a lot of guilt, manipulation with guilt that way. Blaming and shaming, a lot of blaming and shaming. They use shame a lot to manipulate people. And there's always sort of this sort of double-edged things that they say to people. They love to use sort of passive aggressive language when they speak to people too. You've lost a lot of weight. That's so great how you've lost a lot of weight. You look good. I mean, it's too bad about the stretch marks, but I mean, you've come so far though. I mean, you've really come so far. Things like that. It's almost sort of like, yeah, but no. They'll say they're happy for you on something, but you can tell that they're not really quite happy. And then they pit people against each other too. But there's always this plausible deniability with everything that they do. Because then when you say things to people, they'll say, what are you talking about? I congratulated them. I said I was happy. I even had a party for them. But you just know that there's this underlying thing, this underlying rage, this underlying passive aggression, rage, something going on with them. There's this emotional neglect. They never quite connect emotionally, because there's just that thing that's missing, because they can't quite get there emotionally. And a lot of times, they'll offer to do something for you, but you just know that they don't really quite want to do it. Like, I'll pick this up for you on the way home. And then sometimes they just, oh, I forgot to do that. Or if they do it, oh, I had to go way out of my way, but I did that for you. Look what I did for you. Well, I had to stand in this long line, but I did it for you because, I wanted to do that for you. They let it be known it was definitely a favor. But then they tell people, look, I did this for you. So, but it's always under this radar thing. But everybody else thinks that they're so nice. Everybody else thinks that they are so nice. But there's always that slight condescension, that slight sort of superiority, a slight thing. But yet everybody else thinks they're wonderful, thinks they're amazing. It makes you feel like you just always feel like crap, because it's just death by a thousand cuts. Deep down inside, they just don't feel good about themselves. What can you do? You got to start creating some healthy boundaries with these people, because these are the people that, eventually you will lose your sense of self. You will lose your sense of who you are. You will lose your sense of your voice. And so you've got to, step one, don't run. Step two, make a U-turn. Step three, break free. And, that's what I say as far as course correcting. Start moving things in a different direction. Start standing up for yourself. Just start questioning. Like, I thought you were sick yesterday. How come you're here today? Or why are you here? I thought you didn't like this person. Just start to stand up for yourself a little bit, because, calling them out just a little bit slightly is, that will kind of make them lose their balance, make them lose their focus, and allows you to start standing up for yourself too. Because remember that they are definitely more afraid of you than you are of them. They definitely are. And starting to have some boundaries can give you a little bit more confidence each and every day, and start making you realize that they're attaching themselves to you because you have so much value. And it makes you realize that you can create that distance. You can start to take back your power. And eventually, they will sabotage themselves. They will. And you'll start to see it. The more you start to take back your power, the more you'll start to see that mask start to come off of that covert narcissist. One thing is that they have a public persona that is so nice and so kind, and they're like humble and sometimes, charming and wonderful. And I know the ones that I dealt with, they were actually female. And a lot of times people don't even think that covert narcissists can be female, or narcissists at all can be female. I know for me, I thought narcissists were really misogynistic, boastful, bragging, the type that would come into a restaurant, demand the best tables, were treating women poorly, tell everybody how great they are. That's not necessarily what a narcissist is. Just because you say something good about yourself, that doesn't make you a narcissist, A narcissist can be humble on the surface. This is a person who publicly can be wonderful, but privately is pure hell for the person who they're dealing with. And that is what a covert is, covertly. Only the people who are dealing with this person really knows what it's like. And that's why it is so awful to deal with them. That's one of the reasons why they're a covert narcissist. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they're passive aggressive. What that means is that, they might say that they're going to pick something up for you from the store, because they're going there anyway. And they just accidentally forget your thing. Oh, I meant to get that. I forgot. Passive aggressive. They say that they're going to complete a task at work that is supposed to be for you, and it just doesn't ever get done. And then you have to kind of keep nagging them about it. That is passive aggressive. There's always this plausible deniability around them where they can kind of go, I thought I did that. Oh, I didn't mean that for you. That is always something that you're dealing with a covert narcissist. Number three is they use guilt a lot of times to manipulate people. It's okay. I'm fine. I'll just sit over here by myself. I've done so much for you. I go out of my way to do so many things for everybody else, but no one does anything for me. But that's all right. I'll just sit over here by myself, that kind of thing. So they use guilt to manipulate people to do things for them. So that's the third thing. Number four is that they are very easily slighted. So, you're constantly kind of tiptoeing around their emotions. You never really know how they're going to take something because they're very fragile. Just the slightest of things can make their feelings be hurt, or they're going to set them off. They're going to be upset about it, or they're going to feel like they're being criticized, or they're going to feel like they're being judged about something. So, you're constantly having to worry about how they're going to take something because they're extremely easily slighted. That's something that's very typical of a covert narcissist. Sometimes they're called the vulnerable narcissist because of that. If this is resonating with you guys so far, give me an amen in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have seen this, give me examples of the kinds of things that you guys have seen with this, or people that you've seen that you've dealt with. I'd love to know what you all have seen and dealt with your covert narcissist so far. And by the way, if you are dealing with this, make sure that you are joined my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, because you do need to have the right kind of support. I have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp, and you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung to get that help and support that you need as well. We receive commissions. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just want you to have help and support. Okay, so the last one is definitely the one that is always the case with covert narcissists, and that is that they always play the victim. Always poor me. It's always life isn't fair. And let me tell you, with the covert narcissists that I have seen in my life, they will play the victim to the point they will ruin their own relationships with even people close to them, if necessary, to continue looking like the victim, because it's so important for them to remain being the victim so that they can get sympathy from people. I find it very sad that that's how they get supply. They get supply from being the victim. A lot of times they won't apologize to people because they've got this underlying rage. There's underlying boiling jealousy, rage that's always going on. But it's this anger, rage, jealousy thing happening. But for me, I'm the victim, and they're very good at reversing conversations when you try to call them out on things, at turning it around so that they're the victim because of that guilt thing and the whole thing, so that they're once again the victim. I mean, you can never win with them. If you're dealing with a covert narcissist, it ain't good. And they will suck the life out of you. They will drain you to your core. I've been there. The first thing that you're going to want to do is pay attention to their inconsistent behavior. The key to a covert narcissist and unveiling a covert narcissist is paying close attention to their inconsistent behavior, because even though they've got that fake smile on their face all the time, they are very inconsistent in their behavior. While they present themselves as kind and empathetic and understanding, their actions do not align with these qualities. So look for discrepancies between what they say and what they do. If you notice a stark difference and contrast between their behavior and what they're actually doing, you're probably looking at a covert narcissist, and you can even call them out on it. Hey, you said that you were going to do this. Why aren't you doing this? How come this is showing up over here? Because they will do things that they're not supposed to be doing. You need to call them out on that behavior. The next thing is recognizing their manipulative tactics. They are skilled manipulators, and their tactics are often very, very subtle, but you will see them, and you're going to start to see them fairly early on in the relationship, even though they're subtle. And what they try to do is they make them so subtle that they're hoping that you're not going to say anything. They want to use guilt. They want to use passive aggressive behavior. They want to play the victim to control and manipulate others. They try to make you feel like, don't come at me with making me do the thing that I said that I was going to do because I'm sick, or because my parents are sick and I have to take care of them. You wouldn't make me be accountable for the thing that I said that I was going to do, would you? Because I'm sick or my parents are sick, right? What kind of a person are you? So watch out in your tactics when you're dealing with this person, if you find yourself constantly confused or constantly being made to feel guilty, you're being manipulated. It's a red flag for that their true intentions are being veiled and you're trying to be made to feel guilty. By the way, I have a video on 10 kick-ass comebacks to shut down narcissists. Highly recommend that you check out that video. All right. The next one is look for a lack of genuine empathy, not just for yourself, but for other people. Genuine empathy is a trait that all narcissists lack. So while covert narcissists may appear to be empathetic on the surface, eventually you're going to see that it's very superficial and it's very self-serving. Observe how they respond to emotions. Observe how they respond to your struggles. Observe how they respond to other people's struggles. Do they genuinely show care? Do they genuinely offer support? Do they genuinely respond to how people are feeling? How are they when people are in conversation? Are they constantly redirecting conversation back to themselves? Genuine empathy takes real efforts, right? It takes active listening. It takes understanding. It shows compassion. Are they apologizing? Are they recognizing when they weren't fully engaged in a conversation? Do they come back? Do they notice things? Are they self-aware? And you'll see it. And if you're not in it, it will start to wear away at you after a while. You'll start to feel exhausted. In being in this relationship, you'll start to feel drained. And if that happens, you're going to start to need support. So make sure you get the support and help that you need, because I was in a relationship with a covert narcissist, and you're going to start to feel like you're going crazy after a while, and nobody's going to understand because everyone's going to think, oh, that doesn't sound so bad. Maybe it was inadvertent, and if that starts happening, get the help and support that you need. Join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Get therapy if you need it with a therapist who understands narcissism. Go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung if you can't get the help and support that you need through your own network. We receive commissions on that because they're a sponsor for us, but we just want you to have help and support that you trust. It doesn't cost you any extra. So the next one is assess their constant need for validation. Covert narcissists constantly need to be admired. They constantly need to be complimented. They crave constant attention and praise because they have this very fragile self-esteem. So they constantly need to be complimented. Did I do a good job? Look at me. Look at the work that I did. If that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for me, look at that. If that's constantly happening, if they're constantly needing to direct the conversation back to themselves to get praise, and they don't get attention, and they get resentful if they don't get attention, if they're resentful because they're feeling like they were left out, or if they're not getting the admiration that they feel like they deserve, then there's a problem, right? If their self-worth is depending on this external validation, it's a clear sign that they're hiding behind these narcissistic traits. In your gut that something is going on. If you're starting to feel that your little spidey sense is starting to turn on there, maybe you start to make a plan. All right. And that leads me to my last one here, which is trust your intuition, trust your gut, because it's happening. It's on. And if that's the case, I know for me, I should have gotten out a whole lot sooner than I did. If something feels off, it probably is off. Listen to that inner voice inside yourself. They're very skilled at manipulation, and then you're in it, and you're in it for way longer than you should have been. Trust yourself. That person is not authentic. They're not the person that they said that they are. Their actions are not aligning with their words. And then you're going to end up having an enemy on your hands when you actually try to get out of this thing. And the deeper in you are, the harder it's going to be to get out of this thing. And then you're going to need something to get out of it. So when you are going to negotiate with a narcissist, grab my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet at winmynegotiation.com. winmynegotiation.com. You're going to need it. It's a free ebook. Make sure you grab it. Also, make sure you get my new book, Slay the Bully, slaythebully.com, because you're going to need that too. All right. So there you have it, folks. 5 powerful strategies to unveil the mask of a covert narcissist by paying attention to this inconsistent behavior and recognizing their manipulative tactics, looking for that lack of genuine empathy, assessing their constant need for validation, and trusting your intuition. You're going to be so much better equipped to see through their deceptive facade, right? And know when it's time to skedaddle.
So you touched a little bit about blame, and you also have this thing called target of blame.
Yes.
And that's where they start to ruin your life. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that phenomenon? I know that a lot of our listeners have this issue.
Yeah. The thing about target of blame, and often you feel it in the relationship, is that the person is preoccupied with blaming you. And so you become their target of blame. It isn't just kind of incidental, it becomes the focus of a lot of their attention. And we see this in relationships, and we also see this in divorce. And so remember, if they're unloading 100% of responsibility onto other people and taking 0 themselves, then that means you may be getting 100% of all of this intense energy. And people have to realize it takes a certain amount of energy to reflect on yourself and to consider making changes. People with high conflict personalities, and this is the defining piece of high conflict personality, is preoccupation with targets of blame, is they put all that energy into blaming other people. And you wonder, where did that energy come from? It came from not looking at themselves. And so the most intense blamers in the world are people that don't have any self-reflection. And so you can see this energy just takes over, and it can feel sometimes almost like a question of survival, as this person is just trying to drown me or whatever. And so it's a characteristic of high conflict personalities. But I want to mention here the overlap of high conflict personalities and personality disorders is there's a lot of overlap. The key is having a target of blame. High conflict personalities have a target of blame, and that's why they end up in court. That's why they end up in high conflict divorces, etc. A lot of people with personality disorders don't have a target of blame. I've been a therapist with borderlines, with narcissists, with people with histrionic personality disorder, all of these who don't have a target of blame. They're just distressed. They just kind of blame the universe. They take 0 responsibility, but they don't focus the blame on one person. So when you see that, and sad to say, our legal system reinforces that. It's a dispute between this person and this person. So you have a plaintiff and a defendant. And so that's what people do. But what's interesting to me is the legal system today, by and large, people are using mediation, as you folks do, using negotiation. Most people, like 98% of civil disputes, civil legal cases, are settled out of court. People don't realize that. What they see on TV is a teeny tiny percent. But the legal process, now that we've got all these alternative dispute resolution measures, the people pouring into the legal process are people who think this way. And so they think like a plaintiff in the world, and they see defendants everywhere they go. And so they're getting drawn into the legal system, and it just doesn't work, because the legal system is an adversarial process of dispute resolution, and it's drawing in people that simply have an adversarial process of thinking without resolution. And so it's really a bad fit, and people at the receiving end of that really suffer from this, not only this high conflict person, but also the legal system. kind of looking at them and the weight of that can be really overwhelming to people. So that's why we all want to educate people and help them work at solving their own disputes as much as possible. So that's
Yeah.
target the blame. Yeah, don't be one. Don't volunteer to be one. And one of the keys with this is there's 4 things I want to tell you not to do if you think you're dealing with a high conflict person, so you don't become a target of blame. One is, don't try to give them insight into themselves. As soon as you say, look at what you're doing, they're going to be defensive and attack you back. The second is, don't overemphasize the past. Try to focus on what to do now, what to do in the future. Third is, don't have emotional confrontations, whether it's angry or tears or whatever, because emotions put these folks into their high conflict frame of mind. And lastly, don't tell them you think they have a personality disorder or you think they have a high conflict personality.
Sort of like telling a woman to calm down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
We've
helpful.
done all of that.
Tell a woman to relax.
Yeah.
So that's how to avoid becoming a target of blame. And if you are one, if you use that approach, kind of ease yourself out of that role. You don't want to invite being somebody's.
How do you do that?